Hey, what's up guys, Carn here. This is gonna be a video about the build that I've started the 0.2 patch with. And so I'm gonna start with a recap of how things have been going for me and how just things went in general. And personally it's been a breeze since the beginning, with an easy time leveling, an easy time getting to maps and progressing. And on day 1 we did Arbiter, we were farming 15s, I'd say like somewhere in the middle of day 1. So it's been going very well. Build's been very strong, and I will just go over, explain how it works and like what is the setup we're using. So we're using Leap Slam and Bone Shatter for clear. Bone Shatter has always been good. The one problem with it that has been fixed this patch is that you had to make sure you did not do too much damage or too much stun build up, but also did enough. So you had to have this weird balance where you didn't do too much or too little with your Leap Slam. That was extremely annoying and not really sustainable. But this patch, what we get is the Brink support, which makes the skill linked to, you link it to, unable to heavy stun. Which means that we're no longer able to break Bone Shatter pretty much by just doing too much stun damage or things like too much stun build up and heavy stunning monsters instead of just priming them for stun. Those who don't know, the way Bone Shatter works is like when you hit a target that is primed for stun, it will trigger a shockwave. It will heavy stun the target and trigger a shockwave that does a lot of damage. And that is why you cannot stun too much. And that is fixed with the now Brink support, which means that now you just link Leap Slam with Brink, Overpower. We also have Rage in there because it's really nice to just keep your Rage up. And you will basically just Leap Slam on monsters, they'll get primed, and then you'll use Bone Shatter and they will explode. Now the one thing that's particular about Bone Shatter is that the shockwave itself that you proc from hitting an enemy that's primed for stun can also trigger shockwaves of other targets that are primed for stun that it hits. So for example, say you have a big pack of monster, everything is primed for stun, but you only hit the front of it, maybe the first 2 monsters. If they're primed, they'll proc a shockwave. That shockwave can hit other enemies that are also primed for stun, and that will trigger another shockwave. And that is why the Carn Butcher can sometimes, like, it looks like there's a giant chains. When, for example, you would Leap Slam across 3 screens and prime a bunch of stuff, and then boom, everything will change. The support we put on Bone Shatter are Impact Shockwave, Magnified Effect, and Reach. Reach is a new support that has been added in 0.2. That gives us more AoE, but gives us a massive accuracy penalty on melee range. Now we Warrior, and we already click Resolute Technique, which means we cannot miss, so that is a non-issue. It completely circumvents the downside of that gem, so that is just a free 35% more AoE on the Bone Shatter. Now these are the main links that matter. I think the last 2 links, if you want to 6 it, they don't matter too much. Okay, right now I'm using Defy, but it doesn't matter too much. You could do Armor Explosion, Devastate, which I don't recommend, it's not very good. But you could do that, you could do Defy, you could do Behead, you can do, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. But to be honest, the only thing that matters is this 4 link here, all the AoE and Impact Shockwave, and that's pretty much it. Leap Slam, like I said, Brink, Overpower, Rage. As soon as you have a Brink available, you can just put in Overpower and you'll never overstun, so that's no problem. One thing to note is that you want to keep your Leap Slam as low as possible, because you do not want Leap Slam to kill monsters. If Leap Slam kills monsters, obviously, you do not get to Bone Shatter them. If you don't Bone Shatter them, you lose a lot of damage and AoE and clear, and that is not what you want. So keep Leap Slam as low as possible, only level it if you feel like your Leap Slam is not priming enemies consistently enough. Now for the single target, we're gonna use Hammer the Gods and Earth Shatter. Hammer the Gods have had a change this patch where it requires Glory to use, and that Glory is generated by heavy stunning enemies. And it grants you glory based on the power of the enemy you heavy stun. So normal monsters give 1 power, magic monsters give 2 power, rare monsters give 5 power, and unique monster, bosses, etc. give 20 power. Which means you only need to stun a boss or unique enemy once to be able to use Hammer of the Gods. So I'll explain how single target goes, how we do single target on this setup. Pretty much clear the map, right? You usually do not use Hammer of the Gods too much while mapping. You don't need to. But if you can still use it on very tough rares here and there, but either way, you will always have a Hammer of the Gods ready for the map boss, so you get to the map boss, and you start off by just opening with the Hammer of the Gods, and you throw your Hammer of the Gods, and while it is dropping, you just restack, you set up Earth Shadow spikes, and once it drop, you can start detonating them to finish off the stun on the target, and once it is stunned, you will use your Infernal Cry, your Seismic Cry, and your Infernal Cry, and drop another hammer again. It is extremely important to use Seismic Cry and Infernal Cry. They both give you an absurd amount of damage. Infernal Cry that you're gonna link with Premeditation, so 15% more damage. With Enraged War Cry, which will consume rage to give you 30% more damage. On top of all the extra damage as fire that you get from Infernal Cry, is a massive damage increase. On top of it, Seismic Cry will cause your Hammer of the Gods to Aftershock, so you're gonna have 2 Hammer of the Gods dropping. That is also very important. Do not skip that. Don't skip that. This is where most of the damage will come. Now the links we have on Hammer of the Gods is gonna be Fist of War, Heavy Swing, and Rage Force. These are the 3 big ones. The last 2 right now have Heft and Exploit Weakness. Exploit Weakness is enabled because we have Splinter in our Earth Shadow. We will always have that in our Earth Shadow setup because Armor Break, this patch, also gives you a 20% physical damage taken debuff on the monsters. So it is very important to break armor. These 2 supports though eventually when you can have a weapon swap with 2 big maces and a Blade Tree will be probably Lacerate and See Red. Which will allow you to just apply big bleeds, especially since for something like big pinnacles, tier 4 pinnacles, you probably won't get that many hammers, so whenever you drop it, you want to get the most out of it, and that will be through bleed. Earth Shadow are links for Earth Shadow. The mandatory ones are going to be Upheaval, Splinter, and then Aftershock and Reverberate. Now, why we use these is because Aftershocks, the way Aftershocks work on Earth Shadow is like when you attack, if you Aftershock, shockwaves explosions will spawn on top of the spikes that you just spawn. But the spikes will not get consumed. Which means you can still explode them manually after the aftershocks or even before. Even if there's no more spikes on the ground, the explosion aftershocks will still happen. So it is very good on Earth Shadow for that reason. Also means that, for example, whenever you have it is exerted by Infernal Cry or Seismic Cry, you get more of those. So it is very good. And also allows you to play, for example, in range. Say you're fighting a very tough rare or something, temp bubble with a bunch of stuff that you cannot really get in there. You don't really want to get in there. You can always range things and just keep attacking, and the aftershocks will explode whenever you get the procs off. And right now, my 16, I'm using a martial tempo because Earth Shadow feels pretty bad without decent speed, so if you don't have a weapon with a lot of speed, you don't have onslaught, things like this, I would recommend using martial tempo. Otherwise, you can just use any damage support. For example, Heft is something that you would put in there instead of putting on Hammer of the Gods. Alright, for the auras, we're using Herald of Ash. You just help smooth out the clear a bit. Overwhelming Presence. Overwhelming Presence is very good because, again, we need to make sure we stun things, whether it is for single target or for clear. And the supports you will use, like the number 1 that matters the most is Cannibalism. And right now I have Spirit on my amulet, so I have a lot of extra spirit to use. So I'll just put a bunch of stuff like Herbalism, Deadly Herald, Strong-Hearted. But like, these are not too important. Vitality. I would say that the ones that are important is Cannibalism is the main one. And then if you have extra spirit, I would say the next one is Vitality and Herbalism. The rest is kind of just filler because I just have the spirit. And we also use a shield charge for movement. I actually forgot to mention, but so basically when you're mapping, you're gonna be shield charging, off cooldown, leap slamming on monsters using Bone Shatter, and you have to make sure that every action you perform, pretty much you have to roll at the end of it to skip the backswing. Because warrior skills have huge backswing, like for example here you can see my leap slams. If I'm just spamming it, it's gonna be big stop at the end of it, but if you roll, you can skip that and we'll keep moving forward. And the same with the shield charge, remember the same ID, or even with your attacks. It is also worth noting that when you do single target and you start off a boss fight with Hammer of the Gods, you wanna wait a tiny bit to make sure that the Hammer of the Gods does not aftershock. Because if the Hammer of the Gods aftershocks and you've been doing damage in between the first hammer and the aftershock, your Hammer of the Gods will heavy stun, and if Hammer of the Gods heavy stuns, it does not gain glory from that heavy stun. It needs to be another ability that heavy stuns. So you gotta be very careful about that. Now I'm gonna show you also the tree. So on the tree, we just go for all the speed that we can, all the block, all the damage with 2 hands. AoE, we get a lot of AoE. AoE is very good, obviously. And then just the Warcry things, the aftershock from the tree here, damage against heavy stun, Giant's Blood, and one very important note here is unnatural resilience, which brings us to the Ascendancy choice, which is Smith of Kitava. The reason being, Cold Stalker, Forging Flame, giving us pretty much you stack Fire Res in conjunction with that node with unnatural resilience. All you do is stack Fire Res and you get all your resistances that you need on Fire, Cold, and Lightning thanks to Cold Stalker. And all your maximum resists, that will give you maximum resist through unnatural resilience and maximum fire resist. And then maximum fire resist will also give you maximum cold and lightning. So you basically just stack fire res, max fire res, and that will bring you to defenses that look like this, for example, where I have like 90% all resists, cap block, right now like 4.8 armor, like that's something. It's not like massive or anything. Physical damage is still kind of an issue, but the nice thing too is like since you're this node here, Smith's Masterwork, you can only use a normal body armor, but that doesn't mean that it cannot be corrupted. So it's extremely easy to just pick a base, so the best base. For example, right now we're using the base that gives us regen, the Ornate Plate, and you just get a bunch of them, corrupt all of them, and either get a good implicit or get three sockets. It's pretty much guaranteed that you will have this. So that is one really nice perk about Smith of Kitava. And the nodes that we take with the armor, we start off. I'll give you the Ascendancy order while leveling in the right order. So first is Cold Stalker to help with resistances. Then second we will go into Tantalum Alloy and Molten Symbol. The second ones to help with physical resist and to help with resistances. And after that we'll go for Flowing Metal to help start getting some maximum fire res. Oh, sorry. First we're gonna get Forging Flame, obviously. And then the last one will be the last 2 armor nodes. Like these, the order does not matter too much. It depends on what you need. If you have enough res, if you, for example, like if you have enough res on your gear and you don't need Tantalum Alloy to cap your res, then you would just go Flowing Metal instead. So it really just depends what you need at the time. I will say that the one thing that will never change is Molten Symbol on the first armor nodes you take. Then the rest is very variable. Like if you need strength, you would take support straps. For example, for me, I don't need the strength, I don't need the res, so I'm going with the max fire res here because I actually do need it. The life also pretty much always, and the regen. The regen is really nice, especially because you get 5% here. You get some from the chest implicit. Here you could get a second corrupted implicit to get even more regen, and it feels extremely nice. You don't have to worry about burning ground. The cheap damage are not gonna be a problem. It feels extremely nice. Obviously, it's up to you. I think the only thing that is important is Molten Symbol and Kitava engraving, and then you can just mix and match depending on like what you need on your character. The tree, we just go for all the AoE, all the speed, the block, the Warcry nodes here, because you do need Warcry speed and Warcry cooldown recovery rate, otherwise it feels pretty bad because you're gonna be Warcrying a lot. Yeah, all the aftershock stuff for Earth Shatter, Giant's Blood, obviously, more Warcry nodes, and we have to go down here to help with the attributes for Giant's Blood. If you do not need the attributes, you can also maybe skip this entire part and get the speed that we get here in here instead, or go this way. There's a couple of ways you can do that. First one, I like going here because these nodes here are pretty good. There's a good speed node here. We have access to Authority here, which is a pretty good AoE cluster as well. And we have access to 3-point Jewel, which are pretty hard to come by this patch. So it is definitely something to consider. That's what the tree would look like, pretty much. As for the gear, so again, just a normal Ornate Plate, Corrupted. Then you want a mace with as much physical damage as possible, as much speed as possible, as many level to melee skills as possible. Stun build-up is also pretty good, so that is good. The ideal base, I would say, would be a Ironwood Hammer, because they have stun build-up implicit, and that is very good for us. That being said, Sacred Maul, Ironwood or Massive Great Hammers are all good. There are 3 bases you would want. For your weapon swap though, you would probably want double Massive Great Hammers, because they have the highest damage, and this is what you want. You only care about damage, raw damage, no speed. But yeah, ideally you would like attack speed also on your weapon for mapping. Then you just want strength pretty much everywhere you can get it, fire res everywhere you can get it, maximum res. The uniques, for example, here using Infernal Clasp, it helps us get enough max res. It's a pretty good item, has max res and fire res, which means it's another extra 1% max fire res from it. Just the fire res alone. Some strength armor, so everything is good on this belt. It's a very good item for this Ascendancy. And then just the normal stuff like life, res, well, life, fire res mostly, strength. It is good having lightning damage on your gloves so that your hammered gods can shock. You would like attack speed on your gloves. Then for the helmet, the best item you can use is Thrill Seal, gives you onslaught. You can also use the helmet that makes enemies in your presence count as low life, and but then that would be, you would have to adjust the tree for that, and to go grab stars aligned and finishing blows. That would be up to you how you do it. I have not really looked into it in detail, but that is definitely something that you should do if you have that helmet or want to use it. And then your shield needs to have block chance, like a significant amount, like at least 60. Like what I have right now is like probably the minimum you want to be able to cap with all the block clusters and 1 block chance jewel. I have one somewhere, yeah. So 1 block chance jewel, this cluster, and this cluster give you cap block chance with a tier 5 block chance roll. I believe this is the second highest. I believe it is the second highest. Ideally, we want life block chance, physical damage reduction, fire res or maximum fire res is very good. And just whatever chaos res. Like basically, the stats you will look for on all your items, like life, strength, fire res, max fire res on the items that can get it, chaos res. You do not really need elemental res. Like fire res is always better than elemental res because it also gives you cold and lightning, and on top of that, it will give you maximum fire resist, which is maximum cold and lightning resist because of Forging Flames. But yeah, that should be pretty much it. Again, I will repeat the uniques that you're looking for: Infernal Clasp and Thrill Seal, 2 main ones. The Surrender is also a good option for your shield. It is very, very good for mapping survivability. With that shield, you can pretty much AFK in a breach and will never die. It is very, very, very good. However, it makes your physical damage reduction worse because the shield does not get any, doesn't get any life or any res, etc. But if you can fit it in, it is a very, very good option. It's very comfy and very safe. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, we'll keep playing this for probably until I have to go play last epoch. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop by and ask. But I think I should have answered everything. There's gonna have a planner description. And I will try to make a written guide before I, hopefully within the week. Yeah, and I'll make updates. I'm still gonna be playing this for like another week, and I will keep the planner up to date with whatever changes I make to my character. The planner, again, like I said, is just my character, but yeah, that's pretty much how you would want to build to make this. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and again, if you have any questions, you know where to find me, twitch.tv/Carn_. Like and subscribe. See you guys later. Peace.